Oh, your mom answered for you.
We are live for audio.
I
got an email from the JoJo.
Is it? We are live. Hello, Facebook. If you want it to be brighter in here, you can flip the switch. I think so. It wouldn't be in there, it would be inside.
Those of you at home, if you can hear me, maybe someone put into the chat that you can hear, and we will start up in 1 minute. Just let a few more people show up.
Do you help?
There you go.
Oh, it's Joe. Good to see you.
Yay, Joe.
No. Melissa or Michael or both. Oos.
Tell Joe he has accidentally unsubscribed himself from the mailing list. And he should resubscribe himself. You have a face mask and earrings on. Do you want to take any of that off for class? You don't have to. Also socks. Yeah, prepared enough for this.
All right, we're going to get started. So those of you at home, make sure you have a nice empty space if you have a partner. You can give them a high five, and Jennifer and I jump on the mats.
Are you running in?
Yeah, sure. And that's terrible. Let's just face each other. And let's see. Why don't you guys turn and face, like turn 90 degrees? Yep, we'll go this way today. And have a seat. All right, let's warm up. Seated back break falls together, straight back on the count. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Towards me. 1, 2, 3. Other direction. 1, 2, 3. All right. So something we've added into the drills class that we're going to do here a little bit, just a little bit of stretching at the beginning as well. So both of you flat on your back with your knees pulled in. And now both hands to your knees. Leave your head on the ground. Leave your lower back on the ground. Trying to get your spine as long as possible. And pull your knees back towards your shoulders. Opening up those hips. And think of it kind of as the opposite. Keep the head down, keep the butt down so that it's just the hips, right? Your back, your spine should not feel like it's being rolled at all, that you're stretching that at all. We will do that in a minute when we do our rolling up to the ball. We'll then curl that back. And now, right where you are, curl up into that ball. Go ahead and pull yourself up, and now open yourself up again. Yep, flatten out, open up the knees. So think of it as kind of like an upside down cat-cow on your own. Alternate between the two, crunch up into a ball, pull your arm, keep the feet there, keep the knees, pull the legs in, make as small a ball as you can, and then open up your back again. Yeah, exactly. Alternate between that a little bit. And now go into rolling the ball. Go. We were talking yesterday about triangles. We're going to go into the triangles in a second. We were talking about the idea of kicking that first leg hard, like we're attacking with that leg like it's a kick, and then following up with the rest of it. And so as we go into our triangles, instead of just lazily bringing the leg over and the other one crossing, think of it as though we're going to kick this leg through before we lock it down. And if you have the time and coordination to do it, as you lock up, turn the knee to face you. This is the choking leg, and so this is the one that will end up facing you at the end of the triangle. And go into triangles instead. Go. We're going to start with arm-free bridges. So you're going to bridge up onto your shoulder, and you're going to look the way you're going back down without doing the arm reach. And begin left and right. Bridges, getting the hips up high to the ceiling. Less of an aggressive functional bridge and more of just a motion to get ourselves warmed up. Very nice. Yeah, good. And down, and we're going to do two versions of pommeling the legs. First one I like to call the lazy leg pommel. So again, back stays flat on the ground, head stays flat on the ground, pommel the legs, go, big circles. So this will not be hard work on your upper abs, but it will be on your lower. And then change directions. And now switch to the more difficult pommels, head and shoulders off the ground, elbows in, hands in front of your knees. Yeah. So we've got this 4-limb wall between ourselves and our opponent, trying to get to our hips, trying to get to our waist. We've got all these limbs in the way. And down. Very good. Sit up, scoot back from each other, and warm up your hands. Good. 10-finger, palm to palm, wrist to wrist, butterfly. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Let's today, in lieu of going up to the knees and doing Kimura grips, let's actually do it from a guard. So alternating 1 for 1, either from closed guard or butterfly guard, finding a Kimura all the way to the top. And begin 1 for 1. If you're by yourself at home with no one to do the technique with, then you're practicing your Kimura sit-ups. I'll do them in the background here. So if you're doing this by yourself, again, something that we've been doing in our drills class a lot, if you had a chance to attend it, the idea is that we're laying down and we're going to kick ourselves up to our elbow, reach over and grab our wrist, and then elevate up onto the other foot. Use that leg to kick so it doesn't have to be such a significant crunch with your waist to get yourself up and over. Again, just like we've been practicing in the drills class. If anyone there at home has not been taking that drills class, would like to pick up some extra stuff, it's been a very good class. Recently, pretty well attended, consistent student body. Very nice. As always, try to smooth the movements out. Usually it's going to be easier to sit up if you open your guard first and then relock it at the end, or just throw one leg across. You have the flexibility to sit up on a closed guard, but it's much harder. Same thing, Jennifer. Usually it's better if you open the guard. Yeah, use it to kick yourself up as long as they don't run away. One more each, and then we're going to move on. Something we haven't done for a while, which is our ashi switches. And let's move on to ashi switches. So, for those that don't remember how this works, one person starts with the feet on the inside. Jen here is going to slide into ashigurami. Initial leg locking position. Maya is going to push the heel off and sit over it. Jen is going to switch to the other ashigurami. And we can just go 2 for 2. One on each leg. Why don't you, on each turn, alternate which leg you start with. And Maya, go ahead. Left and right. I'm going to put a long timer on over here. In other words, a whole bunch of minutes. Don't worry about it. I'm just using it for my phone.
Do you notice to move more to the center?
Nope. No, like away from the camera? No.
Yeah.
Nope. You should be fine.
I guess we only needed one.
check, but it should be fine. Don't worry about that. Just go. Yeah, you're fine. Start planning what escape you want to work on. And we're going to go 3 rounds, 1 escaping 2-minute round, 1 passing 2-minute round, 1 submitting 2-minute round. Start planning ahead. 30 more seconds or 25 more seconds of this. So be ready when I say switch. Jen, tell Maya what position to go to for you to escape. And switch. And you're off. Just 2 minutes, any escape.
Sorry. Tell us you.
Feel free, those of you working on this at home, to pick, to tell your partner to start responding in a certain way if you want to make it slightly more sophisticated. If you want to simply rep the move without any resistance over and over, that is of course fine too. Nice amount of that. Just the further you rotate, the better. You can almost immediately use your right hand to pull yourself around the corner more. And get up there after you bridge her. Nice. Same thing, Jen. Use your left hand as you hit the ground to keep her at bay, so that she
On
has
her
room.
hip, on her leg.
Anywhere that's probably on her hip or higher, like upper body though, because if she can compress things, she'll go away. Nice. And maybe finish it, Maya, to a breakdown. In other words, get her butt on the ground. Twist her back over.
What after you fall, do you want me to like follow you?
Oh yeah, a little bit. Like try to.
Try to climb?
Yeah, that's fine. That fits it.
Right, there you go, Jen. Yes, nice.
That's smart.
25 more seconds, and then we are moving on to a passing round. Now, the passing round can be any kind of advancing. It can be anything where you get into a better position than where you are, starting from something neutral, not behind. And we're switching on to a passing round. Begin. You could be passing a guard. It can also be advancing from a good position to a great position. It can be a leg entry.
Well, yeah, you start going around and I could reach it.
Nice. Swat your head off the mats. And now what I'm going to ask you to do, and the two here will do it as well, is start thinking about the submission, but I want the submission to be a chain off of this advancing. So Maya is going to the back. I want her to then work on a submission from the back. It can be anything. It can be an arm bar, it can be a back triangle, it can be a standard rear naked choke. Jen is ending up in the saddle. Heel hook makes the most sense, but she also do a straight ankle lock, she can do a toe hold. But the point is it's from that position. So any submission from the position that we just worked in, 30 more seconds of passing, and then we'll go into the finish in a moment. Don't do it yet. It's important to notice if you've been doing a drill and you've done it a few times, and now you're starting to go like, okay, I'm ready to move on. Get a few more in. Those last reps, once it's starting to bore you, are very important. Because those are the reps where you're starting to be able to do the technique mindlessly. Of course you did, yeah. I'm not saying Jen poked her in the eye. This is a standard experience.
Regular Tuesday routine.
Your Tuesday routine is to go to the eye wash station for all of us afterwards. Let's get pokey. this one, go ahead and finish the technique you're in. Moving on to a submission round for 2. Maya, you just go right in, go to the back, and then transition into however you want to finish. Yeah, nice transition into a sit-in on bar.
That's pretty.
Yep. You know, one of my instructors, Brian Glick, once said the idea that like good jiu-jitsu, ask my next one, that good jiu-jitsu is also aesthetically pleasing. That it looks smooth, it looks controlled, it's not lumpy. And that's not meant to be like, that's actually not meant to be like a subjective, oh, let's do pretty jiu-jitsu. Your body moving efficiently looks better, it looks cleaner. The more efficiently you do your movements, the more coordinated your body probably is. So if your jiu-jitsu feels clunky, it is. Go ahead, Jen, what's your question on this finish?
Is it better to finish it sitting up here or leaning down?
Nope, neither. You want to be on your left side.
So
you can bridge into the knee laterally. Yeah. You don't want to hover in the air because then you can't move your hips because they're what you're sitting on. But if you're on your shoulder, then your hips are floating and they can launch forward into the knee.
What do I trap this with?
What are we trying to do?
The arm bar.
Yeah, no, where you are, that where you reach up to the shoulder is where you want to end up. Yeah. Because now you're still holding onto the elbow, but you're not getting in your own way.
I want to keep my face. It's okay.
keep on me.
We got 30 more seconds. We should really get one more. Yes, Jen, that's cool. And so a good example there is like as Jennifer went into that heel hook, the angle and orientation of her body in reference to Maya's leg, from my perspective, just looked and felt more solid. Like I can't describe it, my instinct of it with more detail than that. And that probably means it was also technically more correct, right? More of her body was built into finishing that leg lock. It had coordination to it. Careful, Jen, coming off of the mats here. Where if the angle was different, if her legs were going one way and her upper body going somewhere else, it wouldn't be as clean. Last one, Maya. And then we'll move on to our techniques of the day. All right. So what we're going to work on, over the weekend there was a match between Gordon Ryan and kind of 10th Planet standout, whose name, I don't remember his first name, Bone is his last name. And I've watched him in a number of other events. He's a very interesting jiu-jitsu practitioner, like really good athlete and very interesting, very methodical and very solid, does some very creative stuff. And Gordon Ryan, ultimately, you know, they went back and forth a bunch of stuff. It was a no time limit match, so they were both very kind of starting off nice and slow and working their way up. And ultimately, Gordon Ryan caught him in a triangle position off of a transition and finished not with the triangle, but with what they call a triangle armbar. And so we're going to look at a similar idea here. Often I will describe triangle chokes themselves as being dimensional, meaning I would probably have a good chance of finishing a triangle on Jennifer. She would have more trouble finishing it on me. I might actually struggle a little bit doing a triangle choke on Maya because my legs will be like too long. Your legs need to be like the right length, just the right length to fit into this triangle position. And if your legs are too long or they're too short because the other person's too big, they don't work as well. But what's nice about it is the triangle trap position, which is in other words being able to control them, leads to all these kinds of attacks on the arm that don't need to be the triangle finish itself. So for example, if Maya were trying to do the triangle choke to me, she might not have enough room, but there's still a bunch of other attacks. So we're gonna look at all 3 variations of things that we can do off of that triangle position that aren't necessarily the triangle choke. The triangle choke would be the first one, just to remind ourselves of that. So our game, like our Upper West Side Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game, doesn't lend itself to triangles as often because we tend to not go to the mount when we're on top position. We tend to stay in side control. Mount is really the only place you can do triangles from a dominant position. And we don't play closed guard, which is the most common place of going to triangles. We don't not play it at all, but because of all the leg locks we tend to avoid, we tend to play open guards. In open guards, triangles come in transitions. They come when you're trying to offset someone's balance, when you're going to somewhere else, and people have to put their hands out. This is exactly what happened in the match I was talking about from over the weekend. So we're going to start here with Jennifer in a butterfly guard, and she's coming here, and we're going to do this off of our arm drag. So, you know, an arm drag, as Jennifer starts to come forward and posture up, an arm drag is a fantastic response, right? I would love that I get Jennifer's arms all the way to the mat and I then start climbing up to her back. Her back is a more reliable position for me than trying a triangle. It is not more reliable than having a triangle. If I have a triangle, I should be going for the finish, not be going for her back. But if I don't have the triangle yet, the back would be better. But we're looking here at this moment that as her hands come down, she's going to start pulling back effectively right away. Right. There's a moment here where I go, you know what? I'm not going to get to her back. I'm behind. I'm playing catch up. Now's the time to be thinking otherwise. So say exactly where you are. Just moving stuff out of the way. No, say exactly where you are. Moving stuff out of the way. You can't quite see maybe. This hand had to be on the mat for her to recover her balance. When I drag, take your left hand off the mat, Jen. There's no way for her to just crunch her way back up against the arm drag. I can hold on to this with 2 fingers. Put your hand on the mat, push off the mat. I'm going to have a lot more trouble. That hand is like everything. Let that hand go ahead and push, makes her vulnerable to the triangle from here. So all we're looking at from here is we're in this position. Remember, we don't want to arm drag when they're sitting back. As she postures up, I start to arm drag. She's going to start pulling back. I'm holding on to the arm drag. We have to have this battle going. If you have a partner that you're working with this home, be very careful about knee kicking them in the chin. And Jen, let's try to knee kick each other in the chin. It's very easy. Clunk, it's right here. Be careful. We're going to pull the right butterfly hook out, bring it over, and lock your ankles, because this is where we're going to be doing most of our techniques, is from the triangle trap. Don't worry about going to the full triangle position yet. Just the trap, just ankles with one leg over. That's all. So if you're practicing this by yourself, it's actually a nice drill. Without a partner, you're reaching up and you're dragging. And then as you are imagining them pulling it back, right leg out and cross up over here. If you want, if you're by yourself, you can go all the way to figure 4 because you have all the room in the world. If you're with a partner, just go to the ankles. Come back in line. Jen, you'll go first. So face, you're sitting the butterfly, Maya's on her knees. Okay. As Maya postures up, Jen arm drags. Okay, let's go slow from here. Maya, put your left hand on the mat hard. Put your left hand a little further in front because that's where you'll. So think, Maya, what your goal is to push back off the mat and get yourself back up. Exactly. And Jen reaches up and locks the feet. Very good. That's enough for now. Switch sides. Okay. Jen starts the posture. Maya reaches across the hand, drags. As Jen pushes, the right leg comes out, and switch your feet. Good. So you head 1 for 1. You guys there? Those of you at home, one of the things to keep in mind is the leg that goes first, you want that underneath the lock. It's a little stronger. If we think about it, this is the leg that's doing the work. This leg's helping it. If this leg's on top, the right leg's doing everything. The left leg's not helping. It's only the friction of your toes. It's not very much. But if I bring the left foot on top, then the down heel is using my hamstrings to pull down. Both of my legs are locking in. 2 minutes on this technique, and then we'll work on our finish of the triangle. Yes. Try to think of it in your mind. Your leg is doing something and your other leg is helping it, opposed to both legs are doing something. Pull back, up, nice. Then we'll look at the finish, and then we'll look at 2 attacks on the arm. If we don't feel like the finish is there. If you're with a partner who has a much larger shoulder area, or you're with a partner and your legs are not as long. Hey, we got Tolan watching, no pressure. You guys see that? I'm sure we'll get a long email about what you guys did wrong. No pressure.
Hi, Tom.
The pressure of Tolan has messed up me and Maya horribly.
Yep. Will not be the first nor the last to have that effect. Last one each. Yeah, that was a clean one.
More.
Nope, you can be done. That'll go off in the background. Okay, so let's look at the finish. Let's orient this way, Jen. So my back's to the camera, and then we have a triangle. Okay, so we're in the triangle trap. One arm in, one arm out. I'm locked up at the ankles only. Okay, so mechanics a little bit. I want this spot of my quad, of my hamstring, to be right on top of the neck. That's the goal. One of the main mistakes people make, especially those of you with longer legs like myself, when I turn, this should be really apparent. Look how big this gap is, right? It won't usually be this big, but there'll be a gap, and that means that the strangle won't be as tight. She might tap because it's uncomfortable, but it won't be anywhere nearly as tight as it should be. So the key is really having the back of my leg on the side of the neck. If you can, and this varies depending on your partner a lot, as I figure 4 here, I would like her shoulder to get pushed in by my thigh. So many times if your partner's small, like if Jen were doing this to me, that shoulder's gonna get hidden. And it'll work, but it won't be as strong. If I can get this shoulder pushing in, then it's gonna take very little at this point to start squeezing to get the tap. So let's go over, with those ideas in mind, those 2 goals we want, let's look at the actual technique. So here I am, I'm locked up in the trap here, and I was having my ankles crossed wrong there. And now we want to replace our left leg with our left hand. We're up here. We need to make angle, and so I want 2 things here. I want to turn the angle, but I also want to use my arm to make that connection with the hamstring to the neck the way I want. Good. From here, as I turn and turn and turn, I now want to use my left thigh to gather up the shoulder and figure forward. And actually, if you notice here with our dimensions, that there's almost too much room here. I'm going to get the tap, but it's going to take more of a squeeze than I would like because of Jen being slight in the shoulders and my legs being relatively long. We squeeze from there, we get the finish. So let's look at it in reverse, with Jen doing it to me, where the situations might be reversed, where her legs might be a little too short for my shoulders, but if she gets the angles, it should be fine. So we start right arm in, right leg over, locked with the ankles. Yep. Good. And from here, she's going to replace her left leg with her left hand. And now notice how instantly it creates this space. She's going to pull the leg across. Yeah, so it gets rid of that space. And now here comes the figure 4, trying to keep my shoulder in there. Very nice. And squeeze. Excellent. So those are the main points. Keep that hamstring on the neck. If you can push the shoulder into the finish with that left leg, do so. Get the angle. Let's go. Come on in, Maya. And we'll go from there. Just doing a classic finish. We're only going to go 2 minutes, and then we'll look on attacking the arm. And now push with your right leg and pull with your left leg. Right. Your left knee comes towards you, so it's like crunching instead of pushing it away from you. The number 1 mistake that people who aren't experienced with triangles make is that they push with both legs and the person tips over. If the partner tips over, like toward an arm bar, yeah, there's an arm bar there, but it's not a very good triangle. Nice. Okay.
I love triangle and leg. She's so small.
Let's go ahead and finish your plan when you're ready. On each one of these now, don't let your arm go across. Leave your arm out here, and it should still work. So, old school way of teaching the triangle is you have to pull the arm across. The problem, like that's great self-defense jiu-jitsu. So the idea of pulling the arm across is really good for self-defense because the person someone's attacking you, they're on top of you, you throw them into a triangle, they're unfamiliar with it, they don't know that the arm going across is a bad thing, they won't stop it, and this choke will come on really strong. Anyone who knows what they're doing, the moment you go into a triangle, they don't let that arm go across, and it becomes a battle. You can't rely on the fact that you're going to drag their arm across. It is not going to happen against someone who knows what they're doing. So, your angle and your squeeze and your collapse hamstring onto their neck needs to be good enough that you don't need to drag the arm across. If you do it right, your legs will make up the difference, right? And don't worry, we're going to do something to that arm for letting her leave it all the way over there. Very nice.
I was trying to make it super tight. Did it work?
Yes.
Yes.
What? So Maya, try not to let go with your legs until your hands there. So there's no moment where it's wide open. Nice. Yeah, and look tight, yeah. And again, you know, good techniques look aesthetically strong. 30 more seconds, and then we'll look at attacking that arm. Nice. Last one, you can do one more, Maya. Go to the other side of the arm.
What did we do? Sorry.
No, why are we still doing that side?
We didn't mean to.
Oh,
She-
no,
Right.
terrible.
We
We can squeeze one more in because it'll only take 10 seconds and it takes 45. Okay, so this time, Maya, you're actually going to be the one demonstrating because this is the best we get. So this is the biggest differential between leg length and shoulder size. So Maya's going to have a hard time getting that full version of the triangle. So she's going to go triangle trap. Same idea, boom, boom, right. And this might be the best she can get. Go ahead, lock those ankles up. Right. So locking the ankles is not a big deal for somebody, for even with Maya being that much smaller than me, because it's like a big open space. As she starts going, go ahead for the regular triangle. As she starts going for the regular triangle and I start posturing at all, I just get too big fast, right? And so when Maya goes for the triangle trap, I don't know what we're going over here even more so. So even more so here, as I could almost break out of the triangle trap by muscling, but not quite because her legs are just long enough. But there's all this extra space. So this is a moment strategically where Maya it would be like making a mistake to go for the real triangle. If she goes ahead, go ahead and reach out, grab your leg. She starts doing all of it, and it's just there's no way she's getting that to the knee, if you guys can see the far leg. But she's going to remain locked with the ankles, right? And so now it's starting to think about what to do to the arm. And the first thing with the arm, so if I force my arm out here, and I put my hand on the mat to not let her bring my arm across, I'm walking myself into something else, right? Which this should be the cue for a Kimura. So Maya now instead is going to crunch her way up and find that Kimura instead, right? Often she's going to have to get the wrap on the arm without connecting her hands until we get down here. Yep. And now go ahead and start pushing my hand toward the back of my head, and we got our Kimura. Yeah. So, you know, depending on the dimensions of everyone involved, some of you might not have quite the flexibility to be able to come up and get the Kimura, but the idea, just like everything else, is just keep changing the angle. So, person who's the uke, in this case, plant your hand like you're pushing off. You don't have that many options. That's one of them, but it's going to walk you into a Kimura. Come on back in, Jen, and we'll work on this Kimura finish from here. Okay, why don't you guys turn, put the arm to the other side, Jen. Why don't you turn 90 degrees so you're, yeah, exactly. Yep, a little more clear, or at least show it in a different way. Okay, hand to the other side, Jen. Okay, so, and switch your feet, Maya. Good. And now push that arm away. Yeah, get some space. Come on up to it. And as you come down, change the angle. Yep. And you can switch your feet here now. If you want to switch your feet there, at the end. Because now...
Do you want us to switch places?
Yeah, why don't we do it every time? So what you'll discover is that the leg that was the power leg in the triangle trap, it's now the other leg is the power leg when we get to the Kimura. So here we are. Jen grabs the wrist, pushes some distance, comes on up. And now as you come down, switch your feet left. Yep, exactly. Right. And finish. Very nice. Nice, Maya. Much cleaner. Okay. Everyone, as always, be slow on the finish to any Kimura.
You both face planted on weird. No, that has to go.
30 more seconds, 1 or 2 more each, and then we'll look at the arm bar. Nice, man. And time. Good. Okay, last one we'll do this time, and you'll be inside my trap triangle. This is a little more boring. So here we are, trap triangle. Maybe, whatever reason, I think that I'm not going to have a good time finishing this triangle. Maybe in this case it's because Jennifer is too small for my triangle. My legs are too long. She's going to be able to find space. She's going to wiggle her way out. Maybe I just know she has great triangle escapes. I just know that like trying to finish it, she's nodding. She does not. She's stopped lots of big defending triangles. Okay, the first version of this armbar is going to come opportunistically when I go for the Kimura. So one of the things Jen might do just to buy some time is straighten out that arm. Punch it straight, right? If I'm with a partner that is stronger than me, I'm going to have a lot of trouble folding this in. But what happens is that she walks herself into this straight armbar. So sometimes with the same grip, the same control, you can play with this as a partner, find the elbow joint with your right forearm, and then we simply are folding the arm over our own arm here. So it's just as simple like, you know, a keto looking arm break from here, where the elbow is on our forearm and we're pushing forward. So that one can be available to you sometimes, depending on kind of the strength comparisons and all that. So up I go for the Kimura, but she punches it straight. If we can find that angle, we can sometimes have a finish right here. As always, try to get the power of the finish coming from your core by crunching, not by pushing with your hands. Okay, that's one. So we're going to work on both. We're going to play with both. Here we go there. On the second one, instead of her like straightening the arm out, when I come here, she starts punching the arm to the inside. Basically doing the wrong thing for the triangle, but getting her away from the Kimura. So it would make a lot of sense here for me to start going to the finish of the triangle, but maybe I don't feel like comfortable with it. So taking the same angle as if I were going to go for the triangle, but instead of the triangle, I'm going to throw the second foot over the head as well. This is one of the rare moments where you should cross your feet on an armbar. And we've got the armbar here. You'll often push the person over as we go, or you'll get the finish right here. This is what we call a 3/4 Jujigatami, because both of the legs are over the head. You don't have one leg under the arm and one leg over the arm. You have both legs over the head. So let's look at that one more time, because that one's might be a little rare for you guys. So her arm is on the outside to start. I'm going for Kimura or the simpler arm bar here. But as I start going for it, if Jen sees what's coming and she starts bringing her arm in, time to commit to either the original triangle, or if at this moment I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with it, instead of locking, throw this one over the head as well. And here we can cross our feet, because we want our legs to operate like one leg instead of two separate independent ones. Maybe she tips over, go ahead and fall over to demonstrate that, and we're right into this armbar. Be aware that this armbar is a very easy one to hitchhiker escape from. So I want to very quickly turn her thumb away from the down position. This would be her hitchhiker, right? I want to turn her hand away from that. So when Jen tries to run towards the hitchhiker, she's torquing her own shoulder. And then we finish down or laterally, wherever. If I let her hand go here, start running Jen, I'm going to lose her, because the control over the head is so minimal with both feet. So let's try both of these arm bars. One is just an extension off the Kimura, and the other is if they bring their arm on the inside. Let's alternate back and forth. 1 or 2, last stroke. Love the class, so we'll roll off. And begin. Since this drill kind of has 2 things combined in one, we'll go a little longer. Up. Nice. Yep, you can do both, and then the other person goes. And now you pull your arm inside, Maya. So Maya, earlier than that, pull your arm in. Start, lock your feet, Jen. Yep. And now keep going like you're going to triangle, but instead, very nice. And lock your feet here, Jen. And finish there, or finish when she hits the ground. Very good. Switch top bottom. Nice smile. And now she tucks the arm in. Continue to the triangle. Maya. Unlock your feet. Unlock your. Yeah, I would unlock first, just like you're doing normally. Lock your feet and finish. Excellent. Yep.
Wasn't.
So one of the reasons that I will often, if there's like a current event in the jiu-jitsu world, I will then have I'll do some techniques that are showing it, is not necessarily because it's like, you know, fanboying, going like, oh, hey, you know, the celebrities of jiu-jitsu did that, this or did that or whatever. No, the idea behind that is like watching jiu-jitsu, not necessarily being a fan of, you know, televised jiu-jitsu, but watching at the highest levels, watching two very experienced people go against each other. It's a great way to learn, but you need to be able to kind of learn how to watch it and get the most out of it, right? How to study experienced jiu-jitsu, not just watch it like, you should sometimes just watch it to enjoy it, like enjoy the results, enjoy what happens. I tend to watch jiu-jitsu, and I'm not saying this is superior, where I don't care so much about like who wins and who loses. Sometimes you have events where it's like, it goes to decision and the refs, I sometimes don't even watch like the refs' decisions at the end of that. I don't really care. I don't care who ends up with a W, who ends up with a loss, who wins a belt, who doesn't, right? But the jiu-jitsu itself I find incredibly fascinating to watch. And so sometimes, you know, you'll have something happen, and for those of you that are less experienced, you'll be like, oh cool, I'm not quite sure, I kind of recognize what he finished with, but I'm not sure what. And so here we are looking at, you know, what just happened in the current events of jiu-jitsu. What Gordon Ryan did was not anything revolutionary. It was pretty standard, classical jiu-jitsu. His finish was actually not quite an armbar either. It was kind of half Americana position, because Kyle Bohm made a good decision to kind of tuck his elbow in. So none of the submissions we're working on right now today were available, but it walked him into the Americana finish instead. Sometimes you'll see people in the kind of current events of jiu-jitsu do something truly novel or truly kind of revolutionary. You know, Lachlan Giles in the last Abu Dhabi showed like a whole new world of leg locks, a couple of entirely new positions and finishes, and finished some people way bigger than him. Watching that was like educational all on its own. So learning how to watch and study some of the current best people in jiu-jitsu is a skill all of its own.
Yeah, I find that one. I'm not.
Your arms might be a little short for it because my arms aren't super short.
I feel like I don't have an arm at the right angle, so I have to like turn it.
Rotate it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maya, however, is nailing it.
Should.
She is. She like nails it every time.
Yeah. No, that looks
Yeah,
fine.
she's like right in the right spot every time.
It's getting your forearm. It's getting your forearm to the joint and then hanging on top. 30 more seconds. Get a couple more in.
See, I'm like, her elbow's facing me, and I need it to be facing away from me.
So use your left hand to rotate the wrist. But you're way too low. As in, like, you want to get the forearm behind the, there we go. But no, you want this elbow higher, so you can actually get your forearm into the joint of the elbow. The other one. And time. Very nice. So, let's remember, there's many people who play more like a closed guard game, where triangles, like forcing a triangle. You know, there's a lot of techniques where you can force a technique, or you can be opportunistic. And when I say force, I don't mean like, you know, oh, I'm not taking an opportunity that's there, I'm like being stubborn about it. I don't mean that. I mean forcing it, meaning that I'm making it happen. I am like moving their limbs into a certain position. I'm walking myself there. Like, it's what many of our leg lock attacks are forced, meaning I'm like forcing the game towards this place to be able to do the technique. There are some forced entries into triangles from open guards, but much more often you're going to see it from opportunistic situations. While there's a scramble, while the person's trying to get out of something else, that opening for a triangle happens. I would say in rolling that I might land a triangle once every like maybe 5 rounds. There might be a triangle opportunity for one of these variations based on like a very similar game to the way that most of you play. So the opportunities are there. It's often, as I said, in people are low and you're playing a butterfly or a half butterfly And as they're trying to escape, they end up walking themselves into things. So you just have to have your eyes open for it, more than like, oh, I go A, B, C, D to get there. We could have developed some entries directly, but in general, that's how we want to think about it, is that the opportunities are there, you just have to open your eyes for them. And then once you get to that trap, looking for any of these arm bars, looking for the triangle itself, however we are from there. So thank you very much. For those of you that are watching who received the email from us about what you guys are interested in for as we start figuring out the future kind of a jiu-jitsu in the dojo and otherwise, if you haven't had a chance to answer it yet, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, send us an email, because I know some people got the emails into spam folders and promotions folders and things like that from us sometimes. So if you don't know what I'm talking about what's happening with jiu-jitsu, send us an email and say, hey, I didn't get that. We'll send it to you. And it's basically just polling the entire student body and trying to figure out what jiu-jitsu is going to look like in the next month and moving forward. And so, yeah, please send us something if you haven't gotten anything. If you have gotten it but you haven't had a chance to respond to it yet, please do, as we figure out kind of where we go next. Well, guys, thank you very much, and see you soon. If you're taking karate on Zoom, I'll see you in 15 minutes.